Please be seated. The black velvet sky sparkled with celestial wonder. Jupiter twinkled brightly, and the dazzling Milky Way hung before us. Thousands of stars glittered on the dark firmament. As David and I stood in the cool night air of New Mexico, we were in awe of the extraterrestrial beauty. In full darkness, one truly appreciates the stars. They come alive, no longer just glowing dots, but connecting in the mind's eye. Ursa Major forms a great bear, and figures like a lion, scorpion, and archer fill the sky. If you were to see the stars that way, night after night, you would know the constellations and the seasons and how to find your way by the tiny luminaries above you. Few of us navigate by the stars anymore. In the time of King Herod, however, travelers journeyed great distances across land and over sea, guided by the heavenly lights. At Jesus' birth, a new star appears in the sky. It marks a cosmic connection between the otherworldly transcendent God and the earthly historical world of humans. 12 days after the humble birth of Jesus, the shepherds are long gone, and the star hangs like a jewel, leading people to the Messiah still. Following that star to the lonely manger, the Magi come. Curious figures, these wise men. We insert them into creches, depict them on greeting cards, and mimic them in pageants, yet know little about them. Given the gifts they bring, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, we presume these wise men from the East are wealthy. The text says nothing about 3, by the way. The number is a tradition based on those gifts. It's unclear exactly where they departed from, what they looked like, or their mode of transportation. But like all mysteries, over time, people began filling in the details of their story. Artists began to depict the sacred adoration with important, dignified, king-like figures. As in Jan de Bray's painting, the kings are often depicted as multiracial. This further underscores their non-Jewish heritage and therefore strangeness to the parochial Jewish scene of a young mother, an attentive father, and newborn child in a small village barn. Writers began to name the wise men who were left nameless by the gospel writer. Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, among the most popular names for them. We faithful have long sought a deeper understanding of who the Magi might be. Some postulate that they are ancient Zoroastrians. Magi was the name given to these ancient Persians, a priestly class of men who looked to the stars for insight into the divine. What's perfectly clear is that these strangers from far away are Gentiles, that they come to pay homage to the newborn Jewish Messiah is extraordinary. In the city of David, where Yahweh becomes enfleshed, outsiders come to honor the holy babe, and these Gentiles are welcomed. In this unlikely exchange of hospitality, the vulnerable Christ child is recognized as King of Kings. This sacred scene contains a very clear message. God comes into the world for everyone. Yet in all this splendor and pageantry, who the Magi are is just a backdrop, really, for what they do. The wise men from the East offer much more than their precious gifts, more than the adoration and homage. They offer themselves. Believing in a divine beacon, the light of a star, they abandoned life as they knew it. The wise men left behind their status and their wealth and set out on a great quest. They walked away from the familiar and comfortable, across dry desert and barren lands, simply to honor the Holy One who is come into this world. Not because it's their duty, for it surely isn't. Not because it will pay off in the long run, but purely and simply to seek the divine. So much of these mysterious men remains unknown. Yet what we do know is that the wisdom and the wealth that they possessed wasn't enough. They needed to experience Jesus the Christ. And because of that holy longing, that insatiable spiritual desire to be with the Holy One, they experience an epiphany. An epiphany is an event or object that reveals the divine. Epiphanies break through the spiritual veil in order to communicate and connect God to humanity. The wise men understood that their life wasn't complete. In that way, those ancient mysterious figures are frankly just like you and me. We're not complete without God either. Something is missing in our life until we begin the journey to find Christ in our lives. The wise men responded to this yearning by setting out on their great quest and discovered God incarnate. As a new year begins and a new decade unfolds, many of us want a fresh start. Yet even as we desire a new beginning, we are mired in cultural anxiety and life's uncertainties. The result of anxiety, whether the threat is real or imagined, is that we tend to turn inwards. We become more focused on ourselves, more risk adverse, and less creative. Anxious people are much less likely to engage others or depart from the familiar or to head out on great quests. In the most anxious of times for individuals or for congregations or for us as a nation, the best way to embrace the future is to seek God constantly. It is with an attentive, steady gaze that we come to discover God is truly present with us and amidst the ordinary. It turns out that epiphanies happen more often than we think. They are the grand celestial events that stir the soul, but they're also quiet moments when beautiful music gives us new insight. Epiphanies are spiritual awakenings born of deep friendship and love, and the aha moments of quiet prayer. Whenever we connect to God through the physical or intuitive or relational, we anxious, simple, imperfect beings can be utterly transformed. The biblical narrative does not allow us to linger long in the story of Jesus' birth. It quickly turns our attention from the manger and magi to other epiphanies, from the bright guiding star to the Creator's voice at Jesus' baptism, to Jesus' subsequent healings and transfiguration, to the raising of Lazarus. All of these make plain that God wants to engage humankind. That good news should shake us to the core in awesome wonder. God is present and wants to be active in our midst. And if we let it, that good news has the power to completely reorient and direct our lives. God is constantly bidding us to come closer, bidding us to journey on with courage, conviction, and hope. It may have been the sky that gave the wise men their star, but it was really their hearts that made them follow it on their journey. They weren't satisfied until they met Christ the King. And to this day, wise women and wise men still seek Jesus, and those transformed by his love become heralds of the gospel to the ends of the earth.